afternoon. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. I know you've been sitting a while, but if you need to stand up and stretch, that's fine. It certainly won't bother anybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Anish, thank you for running. Also, thank you for your service to the Commonwealth and to the United States, and look forward to a great campaign. Just wanted to say a few words about what you all stand for and what you've done over the last number of years. But 2012 was a great year for Democrats, and I can't thank you enough for getting out there and knocking on doors and making phone calls and making sure that we elected Tim Kaine to the United States Senate and that we re-elected Barack Obama to the presidency. I can tell you that having worked with Tim in Richmond, there is no person out there that is smarter that I've ever come across. He is just a wonderful communicator, and he's in there for the right reason. So I think you all have done a great job making sure that he's in office. I wanted to give you just a little bit of my background and also talk a little bit about what Senator Webb has done for the Commonwealth of Virginia, especially for veterans. But I was raised over on the eastern shore of Virginia. For those of you all that don't know where that is, that's that little chunk of Virginia that's sometimes not part of the Virginia map, and we're working on that as hard as we can to make sure that we're included. But I went to the Virginia Military Institute and graduated in 1981. I left Lexington, Virginia, and went to Norfolk, where I attended Eastern Virginia Medical School. I then went off and served my country for 8 years. I rose to the rank of major. I'm now a pediatric neurologist, a child neurologist back in Norfolk, Virginia, and been taking care of kids for about 25 years. One of the things that I did in my military career is that I took care of wounded soldiers during Desert Storm. And I'm very familiar with post-traumatic stress disorder, with traumatic brain injuries, the things that our troops unfortunately are returning with. And I really want to take this opportunity to commend Senator Webb for his work with veterans. There are a lot of needs when young men and women who have served our country so bravely return. There are family issues, there are employment issues, there are health care issues. And, you know, I think one of the most important things that he did, and I say this because I went through both college and medical school supported by the Army, but he brought back the GI Bill, and what a tremendous success that is, and that's the least that we can do for our soldiers and our troops when they return. So I appreciate what he did. I would also mention, just in my background, I have a wife, Pam, of 26 years. She was up for a couple of the balls and enjoyed, I think she met a lot of you when she was up in Anish. She enjoyed visiting with your wife as well. Actually, Anish spoke at her school, which she remembers fondly. I have 2 children. My son graduated from William & Mary, and he's in his 3rd year at Eastern Virginia Medical School. My daughter is in her 4th year, her last year at University of Virginia, and my wife Pam and I are broke. So anyway, but we're very proud of them, and they've done well. But a couple of things that I'd like to just talk about as far as the issues and what we're dealing with in the General Assembly. I think, you know, all the challenges that we have out there, obviously when you go around and listen to folks around the Commonwealth, they're worried about jobs and the economy. And one of the things that's most important for the Commonwealth, and I would list it as the top priority right now, is our transportation system and our infrastructure. And I know that's important for Northern Virginia, but it's also important for Richmond, Hampton Roads, and the rest of the Commonwealth. And what has happened, I've been in the Senate for 6 years now, and by the way, I'm from the 6th District, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, the Eastern Shore, and Matthews County. But what has happened with transportation, we all know that it's important. It's important for business, it's important for our ports, for Dulles. I mean, nobody argues against that, but year after year, people have come to the General Assembly with their ideas individually, and they're talked about, and people will say, oh, well, that's not going to work, I don't like it because of that. And so the discussion takes place, but then at the end of the session, nothing happens, and another year has gone by, and we haven't accomplished anything. So what my answer is to transportation, back in 1986 was really the last time transportation was formally addressed in the Commonwealth, and that was under then Governor Bilal's administration, and he formed a commission. And the importance of a commission is to sit down with a group of leaders that understand transportation, that can come up with what we need for transportation, and then come up with a plan as how to pay for it. In other words, how to find a sustainable source of revenue that will support transportation, and then take that plan to the legislators and then to the Commonwealth of Virginia. I really think that's what we need to do. I am confident and hopeful that Governor Terry McAuliffe, when he's in office, will do that, and we can move Virginia forward in a positive way regarding transportation. The second area that I feel passionately about, I'm a professor at Eastern Virginia Medical School. I'm a pediatric neurologist there. I teach pathophysiology. I can tell you that people come, students come from many other countries, many other states. They are not playing for second. And we need to make sure that we continue with the quality of education that Virginians expect. And just a couple things that I want to mention regarding education. I work closely with Governor Keenan. I feel very passionate about this. We need to make sure that all preschoolers have access to education. And let me just tell you why that is. As a parent and as a pediatric neurologist, and I think I can imagine a lot of you all are parents, there is a tremendous amount of learning potential in 2-, 3-, 4-year-old children. And so if my wife and I have the means to send our children to preschool, which we did at that time, and my neighbor doesn't, it starts the gap between the haves and the have-nots. So that's very important to, and again, we don't want to force people into pre-K education, but we should at least make it accessible if they so choose. As far as K through 12, the Republican Party has continuously underfunded K through 12 education. It is one of the, my pet peeves. Obviously, we want to get out of this bad economy. We want to get people back to work. We need to put more emphasis in the high school years on technical and vocational training. Obviously, not everybody's destined or wants to go to college, and we need to at least prepare them to enter the workforce. And finally, with higher education, we are blessed with great universities and colleges. One of my pet peeves, though, again, having seen both of my children go through public schools, I appreciate diversity. There's no problem with out-of-state students, but we as Virginia taxpayers really ought to have first dibs in our children getting into our universities and colleges. So the reason that doesn't happen right now is we're underfunding it, and so I think we can do better. Finally, regarding health care, that's where my background is. One of the things, if you all have been paying any attention to the news or the blogs, or the attack or the assault on women's reproductive rights. And last year, the Republican Party rolled into Richmond with this social agenda, and one of their bills was to make it mandatory for a woman to have not only at times an unnecessary, but a very expensive medical test against their will. There is no reason, and I will repeat this, there is no reason that a group of legislators, mostly men, should be making a decision on what a woman should and shouldn't be doing with her body. I would take that one step further. There is no excuse for a group of legislators to be interfering with the sacred relationship between a patient and her physician. So I worked last year. It was great to see Mark here. He's, by the way, Mark and Harrion is my seatmate, so we keep each other straight on the floor of the Senate. But we've been working to repeal the ultrasound bill, the trap laws, and we will continue to fight that effort. As far as, legislation that I have worked on regarding health care, Tim Kaine came to me a couple of days before I was sworn in 08 and said, Ralph, he said, I like to go into a restaurant, and he said, I have a lot of friends across Virginia that would like to go into a restaurant and not be exposed to secondhand smoke. And I said, Governor, I agree with you. He said, you're a physician, you're a great person to carry this bill. We fought that fight in 08. We got that bill out of the Senate. developed a little bit of a fever, as we say, on the House end, but we went right back the next year. And with help from people across Virginia, we were able to make that law. And I think that's been good for the health of the Commonwealth. I've also worked this year, we continue to work this year on concussions. Those of you that have children or are interested in sports, we have a real problem with children now who are suffering concussions, and especially returning to play before it's safe. So I think we have good legislation on the books to make it safer for them. The last thing regarding health care that we've been working on, is obesity, is childhood obesity. And as you all know, about 1/3 of our children right now are either overweight or obese. You can either pay for it now or later. So I've worked on legislation last year, again this year, that will make it healthier to have more PE for these kids, and to let them be educated to make healthy decisions, etc., so that hopefully we can all move together and make our kids a little bit healthier. So finally, the question that people will ask me is, well, Ralph, why are you running for Lieutenant Governor? What I have watched, I'm fine, thank you, sir.